is Drive with Rod Tiley.
Thank you, Danica. Into the 5 o'clock hour, Friday afternoon, and the weekend is just around the corner. 92211 882 if you'd like to say hello to us and get involved, or SMS 19 677. And our talkback caller of the day today will pick up a terrific prize, the $100 voucher to spend at the Heritage-listed Terrace Hotel for this weekend's Perth Heritage Days. Michael Caine is the National Assistant Secretary for the Transport Workers Union. Not the Michael Caine you might have been thinking of, the actor Michael Caine. This is Michael Caine from the union. How are you, Michael?
G'day, Rod. Well,
do you look like the other Michael Caine?
Not at all, I don't think.
Not at all. Mate, I don't mean to be light about what is a very difficult subject in a very difficult week. We've had too many truck-related fatalities this week. What's the count now?
It's an absolute tragedy, Rod. And, you know, I know that all of your listeners, certainly all transport workers around the country, their thoughts are going out to the families and the communities that have been just absolutely shocked and devastated, dislocated by the 7 deaths since Monday in truck-related incidents on our roads. And, you know, this is a time for thoughts to be with those families, but it's also a time for soul-searching, a time for people to realise and governments to understand that until the economic pressures right at the very top of transport supply chains from the very powerful clients, the likes of, for example, Coles, are addressed, these pressures on the industry are just going to continue, unfortunately.
This particular 7th death this week, sadly, a 21-year-old Queensland woman killed on the Cunningham Highway. I think it happened outside her mother's home. Is that right? Or pretty close to it?
It's an absolute tragedy. The details are still sketchy, and the causes of any traumatic accident are always complex, but the direct causes. But yes, absolutely right. And the question here that needs to be answered, Rod, is what are the pressures that are on trucking companies, where the clients of the industry are squeezing every last dollar out of those companies? And what that means is those companies have to ensure that their drivers stay on the road for too long or drive too fast to meet deadlines. I'm not suggesting that's the case in this incident. The causes are complex, but when you have 7 in a week, when you have 330 on average each year of Australians being killed in trucking incidents, you know that something's wrong and the time has come for action.
I know you've been talking about the Coles chain and their supply demands. Do you know if any of the drivers involved in fatalities this week, the 7 of them, were working on Coles contracts?
We don't know that at this stage, Rod, but what we do know is that the retail and wholesale sector accounts for 35% of the entire transport task in the country, and of that 35%, Coles and the other retailers have 78%. So there's a pretty good chance, a tragic chance, but a pretty good chance that more than one of the vehicles involved this week was carting retail goods. They have a major footprint in the country, and we know that the farmers, the veggie farmers are being squeezed, the dairy producers are being squeezed. The trouble is when transport operators are squeezed, these are the tragic results that we see.
Michael, back in 2012, an industry survey was done of Coles supply chain drivers, and more than 45% of their vehicles, or their drivers rather, said that they were pressured to skip rest breaks to make delivery times. 28% of the drivers carried overweight loads in order to deliver the goods on time, and more than 25% of the drivers were pressured or said they were pressured to speed just to meet their employer deadlines. Do you think those stats have got worse this year?
Yes, look, isn't it shocking? We've done surveys year on year since 2009. The survey statistics remain static, but you always get spikes during the year, and when you have 7 dying in a week, 7 Australians dying in a week, just the magnitude of this strikes home. Now, Rod, the last federal government set up a Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal, which is in the middle of deliberations about some of the conditions it might place in the retail sector of transport. And what we're hoping will happen is that that body will bring down a ruling and will ensure that clients are paying their fair share in this sector, so that some of those pressures are lifted off the companies and therefore off the drivers, so that we can make a real difference to the main causes of these accidents on our roads.
That tribunal, which you mentioned, is under some threat, isn't it? Because the Abbott government is actually reviewing whether or not the tribunal should continue.
Yes, look, and unfortunately in this instance, review really is a word that's in inverted commas. It's unfortunately quite clearly code for abolish, and we know that the lobby groups for the major retailers, the likes of their peak body, the Australian Logistics Council, are really pressuring government hard to get rid of this tribunal before it makes an order, before that order has a chance to work. And we would say that this is really above party politics. There's a tribunal in place. People are dying on our roads. Australians' communities are being dislocated. Let the tribunal do its work, make some orders. Sure, review those orders in a little while when we've had a chance to see what impact they've had, but not before it does its work. Let the tribunal do its work, and there's every chance that lives will be saved. Yeah, well, the Prime Minister has said that what he's trying to do is cut back on what he referred to as unnecessary bureaucracy, but to my way of thinking, a Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal is absolutely necessary bureaucracy. Well, you would not want to be a family in one of those seven, or a community member in one of those seven communities listening to that language. There's a time and a place for ensuring efficiency. There's a new national heavy vehicle regulator, and that's doing some good work in terms of efficiencies, making sure that there's not duplicate laws across the country. But this is a very different proposition. It's about saying, okay, there's got to be some action on the causes, the absolute root causes of these problems, and that's got to be given a chance to work. I know that some of the comments that drivers made in that survey, that Coles drivers made in that survey last year, were the sort of things you expected to hear. You know, I carry overweight loads, the boss is impressing on me that if I don't make the delivery on time, I'll lose the contract. I think one of the most frightening things that came out, to my way of thinking, was a driver who said, I skip brake maintenance because I don't have enough hours to get the jobs done. I think, anyway, that others are in exactly the same boat but haven't had the guts to tell us. Well, that's absolutely right, and they're in this terrible position that no person should be, and that's the position of having to make a dreadful decision. Am I going to keep the wheels turning round, literally putting food on the table or paying my mortgage, making sure I finance the repayments on the truck? And no one should have to make that decision. And, of course, the first thing that goes is that thing that you would rationalise in your mind about what could go first. Okay, well, I won't do that regular maintenance check, or I won't change the tyres this month. I'll hold it off till next month. Well, really, I can't afford the time just to take the time out to stop. I've got to keep those wheels turning. And it's the pressures on the companies and the drivers that need to be lifted to change that culture, and that's what the tribunal promises to do. Let's hope that every reasonable politician on either side of the political divide says to Tony Abbott and the Transport Minister, hey, listen, we need to hang on to this Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal. We need it to do its business and keep more people alive. Thanks for your time, Michael. Thanks, Rod. Michael Kane, the Transport Workers Union National Assistant Secretary, in a terrible week since Monday morning. A driver was killed, several people injured when two trucks collided in that massive crash on the Great Eastern Highway. That happened here in our state, of course. A man died when his car collided head-on with a heavy vehicle on the Pacific Highway in the northern parts of New South Wales. That also happened Monday. A pedestrian died when hit by a truck in Osborne Park here in Perth on Monday. A cyclist died after being hit by a truck in St Peters in Western Sydney. That was on Tuesday. A truck driver died when his heavy vehicle rolled on the Carnarvon Highway in Queensland, also on Tuesday. A 31-year-old man died when a truck crashed in North Queensland on Tuesday, and today a 21-year-old Queensland woman was killed when her car was hit by a semi-trailer on the Cunningham Highway, also in Queensland. That happened this morning. Terrible week, and let's hope we don't have another one next week. It's 17 after 5.
Now on Drive, the stock market.